Secrets of the Ferns, Chapter 3. Lost in a Wild Wood. Lewis found himself in need of leaving the house. He missed the fresh air and flowers, so he took off his slippers and robe and changed into his boots and jeans. There was a note nailed to the door, but he decided he would read it later. It was a very long note, too long to read at the moment. The sun will be setting soon. There was such fresh air to receive, and flowers are hard to see in the shadow of a new moon. In his flannel coat with his book and his staff, he took off down the road. He was dissatisfied with the traffic of cars and cyclists, so he took a hard right. There before him stood the wild wood. It was a place everyone warned against. Mr. Adams always joked about it being a sentient wood, able to gobble up anybody that dares to walk in it. Pastor Franny at the East Union Methodist Church, with her beautiful deep brown eyes and high cheekbones, would instantly grow pale and wrinkled as if struck by lightning by the mere mention of that daunting force. The woods surrounded the town, and the only people who made it in and out of town had vehicles that stuck to the main highway. Dozens of missing persons report a year flooded the police office. The Indians that raised my pa considered me their grandchild. I was told legends of those forests, Pastor Franny would say to a previously yawning crowd on Sunday. I reckon if they say to avoid those woods, it's safe to say we best stay out. Lewis had heard all the warnings, but his curiosity drove him away from that mundane road with its broken glass and loud traffic and sidewalk hogging cyclists. Lewis was scared. Before him was completely unknown terrain of briars and trees, overgrowth and undergrowth, no path to be blazed but trampled upon. Between the trees he saw small plants he might try to walk among, but he did so carefully. All sound seemed to dissipate, but Lewis assumed it was just his ears popping like they sometimes do for no reason. A strong scent lingered between the mighty stalks and trunks of the forest giants. Little did Lewis know that he was waking them up, one by one. For those oak and hickory giants, as tame as they look, as separate as they appear, they make up the whole of the wood, the floor between their torsos, the air they breathe between neighboring branches, and the mile-high canopy. Lewis was soon about to find himself in a pack of giants, lost and afraid. I know that this smell, whatever it is, means bad news. I can tell it's coming from the east, so I should walk towards the sunset. But Lewis soon found that the trees had disoriented him from the sky. He was only left to best guesses, poor ones at that. He thought about his home in the town, his library, and his view of the mountains. It was then he gave up his fun, and Lewis decided to try and retrace his way out of the wild wood. And as he turned around, a loud rumbling wind rushed through the trees, bringing with it the garbage of the forest, the dead leaves, the feathers, the dirt. Lewis was determined to find his way out of the gravel, but unable to recall how he found his way in. So naturally, he walked in an odd circle. He was under the impression that he needed to sit a while and think. Finding a large rock to sit on and take a few breaths, he began to weep. Tears fell from his eyes, and he cried, "Oh, if I had only stayed on the road." but you might not get the pleasure of making my acquaintance. A bold but near-sounding voice, unfamiliar to Lewis's ears, made his hair poof up, and he jolted 20 feet straight up into the air. Oh, please, dear Lewis, don't be afraid. My name is Birch. I have been at this creek for 1,000 years. Perhaps I can help you. Lewis wiped his eyes and caught his breath from the excitement of being startled. He had been so lost he did not know he was at a creek, for the water ran quietly with very little stones. Where are you, Birch? Lewis sniffled, cleared his throat, and yawned in his exhaustion. Why, silly, I'm all around you. Under the boulder you rest on, above your head, behind your trembling back. Tell me, Lewis, what is this road you speak of? Lewis was still confused, stood up and turned around. Birch was a tree. She had large haunting eyes, made of burrows and large nests. She seldom moved, but Lewis heard her as well as the pounding of his heart. It steadily beat harder and harder. He panicked. Taking off in quite the hurry, he ran like there was no tomorrow, but quickly tripped on Birch's roots, which tightened over Lewis's feet and fastened him to the ground, catching his fall as her dangling branches slowly wrapped around him. Tisk, tisk, tisk. He almost forgot your book. His copy of Treasure Island was soon delivered to him, floating among her weeping limbs. She soon loosened his grip and once again posed the question. So tell me of this road. I must know. You're a talking tree. Why, yes. And you're, I suppose, some sort of hairless cat. I can't really tell. The creature you remind me of most I thought to be long extinct, but you couldn't possibly be one of them. You bear no fire or swords that trim my neighborhood. I am a boy, thank you very much. Lewis wasn't happy to be called a hairless cat, let alone some creature. Birch chuckled and said, So, boy, tell me of this road. Only if you guide me out of here. Those hollow dark eyes scrunch. The way out of here is tricky, though I suppose I can't tell you how to get to the road if I've never seen it. I am deeply rooted at my home. Sort of a homebody, if you get my drift. Lewis sighed. Some more tears began to drizzle out, but Birch had an idea to comfort this mysterious boy creature. She had a slight hunch it might work. Okay, Lewis. I see creatures of all kinds eat from that bush of berries right to your left. To my right or my left? Approximately to your left, my dear. Lewis saw these golden berries, and he was unsure. They eat the berries, and they are generally unharmed. I think perhaps you might feel better if you eat some. Lewis was most opposed to eating the food of strangers, but here he was in Birch's house. It'd be rude to deny a host their offerings. So he wiped off his scraped muddy knees and found himself at the bush, picking at the golden berries. He ate a handful and noticed they tasted something like a cherry tomato mixed with a banana. It was an odd flavor and texture, but it helped him think better, and his crying was soon over. road to my house is a highway. My home is a hut among many in a neat little town. I grew restless and ventured off in my usual route, and now I am lost in these interesting and fun but wild forests.
If your town is so neat, why so restless? Why venture away into the wilderness?
I guess I find myself doing the same things every day, growing tired of the same old, same old. Lewis grabbed another golden berry.
Like what?
Well, the parlor I love to go to. I go there and I drink sodas, and I can't read my book there like I used to, and there's no more familiar faces. The library is closed really early. My home library is much better, just lonesome. The sidewalk and park is just too familiar. I grow tired of the same root beer, the same trail by a few abandoned buildings. I guess it's a neat town, but I wanted to see something new. Birch took in all of his words, but quickly responded with a,
Well,
"Well, what?" Lewis began to notice Birch had no mouth, just those haunting, yet somehow loving eyes.
well, you're here now. Aren't you happy to see something new?
I suppose. I guess getting here was a lot of fun, but the panic of feeling so lost I might never return home safe, it really got me down.
Have some more berries.
Birch drooped some of her branches down to the creek to drink.
And some water.
Lewis cupped his hands in the creek. He noticed his eyes looked tired in his rippled reflection. But above his head he noticed something magnificent. He looked straight ahead, and there was a cave of crystals obscured by a bushel of ferns. Endless gems and wonder, but he knew not to take one step towards it, for the smell was coming from the cave's entrance, the smell of rot.
I know the allure of a fun journey, but, Lewis, you would be wise to avoid those shiny rocks, dear.
I understand, Lewis said, and he drank some more water and lied down at Birch's trunk and took a long nap. Sometimes the head gets big with dreams, and the heart overpours its own love, and sleep is what Lewis needed to rediscover his bearings. Birch told him in the morning how to return to his house. She stopped talking after he saw a few owls hoot above and a few doves coo in the distance. Lewis made his way back to the sorcerer, who did not ask him questions about his disappearance. The sorcerer who kept Lewis in his employment had some sad news to give his apprentice. It was time to send Lewis away to foreign lands. Many of the world's centralized powers are undergoing dramatic shifts in their dynamics and geographic tendencies. Lewis was too young to understand, but the least the sorcerer could do was send him away before East Union was incorporated along with all the other villages, the villages that Lewis needed to explore in order to open his mind and fill his experience. The sorcerer taught him a lot in his 11 years of living there. When Lewis got home, he took out a hammer and he unnailed the scroll that hung on the doorpost. The sorcerer tended to be lazy at sifting through door mail. Compared to bird mail, chimney mail and window mail. Of course, the sorcerer's habit was to stay indoors. Dear sir or madam, we have sent this scroll from the great distance of the African continent, the Nigerian nation and people, to inform you that our prince is in dire straits with a neighboring tribe. They claim to work for a corporation called Core, and have bankrupted our noble prince out of his royal holdings. We aren't asking for more than $3 silver, which in return earns your name of 100 hectares of a farmland of your choosing. Our associate will send you the maps of the subplots after your generous donation. Thank you, and our great nation of Nigeria and its prince relies on kind souls like yours. Regards, Prince Nebudala Mahalo. Louis took off his cloak that gave him his name and surrendered his whole self back to the hut as apprentice, tossing the scroll into the sorcerer's junk cauldron. Core, the apprentice wondered if they were related to Ernie or New World Core. Anywho, he had to be forewarned about Nigerian prince scams, but this time the claims were true, though it was still halfway a scam nonetheless. All the land in that region had already been incorporated. The apprentice took to trimming the garden plants and attending to the sorcerer's aquarium filled with piranha for some ungodly reason that the sorcerer of course kept a secret. But he left his cloak off at the door. His adventures were slowly fading from memory. He continued onward with the memory of Birch. He kept his interest in chores until he laid down on his bed. He looked out his bedroom window at the stars and sighed. He might return to the forest and explore more from time to time. He might stick to his duties as apprentice after all. A general mood somewhere between apathy, contentment, boredom, and melancholy rest inside of him. He made peace and entered the world of dreams thereafter.